Welcome to our Influencers in Accounting podcast. Me, Rob Brown. I am on the road and I'm in North Carolina in Charlotte, and I'm thrilled to have with me today as part of our Accounting Influencers broadcast network is Craig Field. Hello to you, sir.
Hey, how are you?
We're doing splendid. Craig, many people listening, and we have thousands of listeners all over the world who may not have come across you. So just tell us briefly about you, your firm, and your world.
Where to start?
Well, we sip our coffees here in a coffee shop here in North Carolina.
Yeah, so I'm originally born in Southern Africa, moved to the States 2008, where I had to re-qualify as an accountant. So I got my CPA in 2015, was working for a CPA firm based out of Michigan, ran the Charlotte office for them, Charlotte, North Carolina. 2018, went on my own. 2020 purchased a firm called Geer, and so our firm is now Geer, Field and Rhodes, and it's 3 partners, 10 staff, and we do CPA, tax and accounting services.
How would you describe the accounting profession at the moment, Craig? What kind of shape do you feel it's in? You can speak internationally or just US?
Well, the US CPA, I would think, is pretty much a tax-focused profession.
Right.
Well, that's not exclusive. In the profession, in public accounting, CPAs tend to be tax-focused. So that's a lot of what drives us. But there are other players in tax preparation, so we're not the only ones. You don't have to be regulated to be a tax preparer.
And there's always going to be tax, so accountants will always be
involved.
But
and people want peace of mind, and the government's just come out with this announcement that they're going to employ 87,000 new IRS agents in the next 10 years. So a lot of taxpayers are anxious. They want peace of mind, and the top qualification for tax preparation is CPA firms.
And people say compliance is dead, but tax isn't going away anytime soon.
Tax isn't going away, and we've got a recession coming. And it's one area I feel a little bit of confidence in it. We're probably not going to suffer. We'll probably actually do better in times of recession. It's a bit like bars as well. When things are tough, people go drinking, and when things are good, they go drinking. But when things are tough, they're going to come and get tax returns done because they want to get them refunds. They want to reduce the amount of tax they owe. They don't want to get audited. So I think we'll be fine in a recession coming up.
How have accountants coped with the pandemic as a breed?
Can only speak for ourselves, and in a small firm like we are, it was a bit of a frustration more than anything. Just the biggest challenges we had were from the government's reaction to it.
How do you mean?
Well, they changed the deadlines,
Right.
So suddenly now you had to handle all these different deadlines. They had all these grants and stimulus checks. I spent a lot of my time being bookkeeper for the IRS, telling clients, you didn't get this because you got paid that, and you owed the government for this, but you didn't owe them for that. And I had someone this morning whose refund was different because the amount they got paid was not what they told us they got paid. It's not technical tax stuff. It's just money in, money out, bookkeeping. So that's been frustrating, the different deadlines, and of course you give somebody 2 more months to file their tax return. It doesn't mean that they're going to bring it in the same time as last year. They're going to procrastinate another 2 months.
Have you seen an increased demand for advisory services beyond compliance as business owners try to navigate the pandemic, supply chains, inventory, growth?
I'm not sure that affects our clients. Bear in mind, our clients are small, single business, self-employed businesses. We do have some bigger ones, but what I have seen consulting work come in is all these grants again. It's government consulting for credits and grants and
R&D
advances.
stuff, perhaps.
Yeah, there's some R&D, but I mean, the big thing is there were a couple of programs to help people through COVID, and it was basically free money. But to qualify, you had to go through certain regulatory hoops. And we did that. We would help people complete the form to get forgiveness of loans and help complete the forms to get advances from the IRS and things like that. So there is that consulting, and it's pretty big money.
There's a lot of consolidation going on right now in the accounting profession, buying and selling of firms, and private equity money is coming in. Talk a little bit about what you see happening in that space.
didn't know about private equity money. That's interesting that you mentioned that. But I know there's a firm, used to be a member of Russell Bedford, which recently I learned has sold. And I met the owner last December at our North America conference. Super guy. Him and his wife run the practice. And so I know the kind of money he was being offered. And he said there were several suitors. I think he had 3 or 4 people interested in buying his practice. So it's definitely out there. I follow the businesses for sale here because I'm looking for a practice to buy. And you can't find them. I mean, there's a practice that came available for sale in Charlotte last week. And that's probably the first one I've seen in 3 or 4 months. Supply of practices for sale is small and there's a big demand.
It's interesting. We hear different sides of the story depending on where we are with our podcast. But we do know that there's a generation of accounting firm owners that are baby boomers. They're retiring, they're moving on, they're wanting to sell up.
Yep.
People coming through, wanting to take over the firm. Private equity money, like I said, perhaps they're certainly looking at fintech and getting involved in that side of things. So these firms should be for sale, wanting to be moved on. I wonder, in your view, you've bought a firm, you've sold things. What makes a good buy when you're looking for an accounting firm?
Client retention. That's your biggest thing.
That's the biggest metric.
You've got to somehow forecast that. I'm no expert, but the one I looked at, as I was telling you about just a moment ago, relatively small practice, 270,000 in revenue, one CPA and a staff member. But the staff member has retired in August this year, just recently, and the CPA, the owner, is retiring. Exactly the scenario you're talking about. And I'm looking at this and thinking, how am I going to keep those clients? How am I going to keep them?
Because you're bringing that book of business, you've got to service that, haven't you?
So I could keep their location. The office that he's working from is small and relatively inexpensive, but now I've got to have 2 locations. So I turned him down. I said, it's probably not the right fit, because for me, the bigger challenge is staff. I need competent individuals that can provide the level of service to my clients that I want. And it's just difficult to find those people.
That is a crucial point. The talent pool we know is dwindling. Not enough accountants out there. We talked about the complexities of the tax and regulations, so we're going to need more experts and advisors to navigate through that. How attractive do you feel accounting is as a career choice for young people at the moment? You've been in this game a while.
I mean, aside from the fact that it's hourly based, I mean, it's still an hourly based business. But as far as the hourly based businesses go, I think it's great. It's repeat revenue. You get to know your clients, and over time you can build a portfolio or book of business of people that you know and know you, and it's very rewarding. I had a client in this morning. They needed advice on a property that they own in another city, and whether they should rent it or not.
It's interesting work.
It is. I find it interesting. I feel like I'm adding value. I'm really helping them. It's 30 minutes. I mean, and for me, it's like pulling off a log. I know what to do. But for them, there's great value in it. And I get a kick out of being able to do that. So anyone coming into the profession can do that. And it's a relatively easy profession to get into. You've got to study. I mean, you've got to work hard. CPA is not an easy exam. And I've written it here and overseas. It's not easy, but you can do it. Just a bit of effort, you can do it, and you can build up a nice portfolio of clients that won't go anywhere, and you've got them for life.
There's a perception with some younger people that the career progression for accountants is spend your valuable time doing your qualifications, work really hard, and then get chained to a desk for 10 to 15 years doing boring, complicated tax work in the hope of making partner and beyond. But the career path is so much more varied than that, isn't it? Give them some hope out there, Craig.
Well, I was with Cooper Lybrand, PWC now. I mean, that's where I started. And I got bored with auditing. I mean, that's what I did overseas. I did audit a lot, and I got bored with it. But the reality is I know it well. And even to this day, when I get presented with a set of financial statements or a balance sheet, I get a kick out of doing that. I mean, I enjoy balance sheets.
It's the backbone of your profession.
It is. And so as I say, we do a lot of tax, but I tend to focus more on the sort of planning side of it. So tax planning, financial planning, business planning. And you can do that as a CPA. You have an integrated knowledge of your clients. If you understand a balance sheet, you probably know more about that business than most people do. And I think people need to look at it that way. I mean, if you like auditing and you want to do the checking and ticking and bashing, that's great. But if you don't, there's great opportunity for advisory work. Business owners don't understand balance sheets. They don't understand finance. Whereas CPAs, it's easy. You can do it on your own. You don't have to be a partner in a big firm.
And there are many new firms starting up actually with accountants. We hear about the Great Resignation, recalibrating of lives. I don't want to do this way anymore. I don't want to be employed. I want to sail my own ship and be. Those are entrepreneurial accountants, aren't they?
They're people who will pick up a book of business, and they'll make a living out of it, and they'll work their own hours. It's a very comfortable way of doing things. But for me, it was frustrating. I mean, I did that. I went on my own and I made enough to live off. But you very quickly, if you're entrepreneurial, you're picking up new clients all the time. So you've got a decision to make. Do you say, no, I'm not going to take you on as a client and turn down the sale? Or do you start structuring your business to handle the additional work?
Which means taking on more people.
Taking on more people. So the minute you take them on, it's not a proportional relationship. Because you take them on, you've got less time because now you've got to manage those people and service your client.
Yeah, and train them, and imbue your culture in them.
So suddenly now you get this exponential thing going that I'm just going to get this extra resource to help me complete the work. Oh, hang on, I can't get the work done that I was getting done, so I've got to get an extra resource, and now I've got two people to manage. So it becomes a sort of a treadmill.
Yeah. And you've admitted you're struggling with the talent conundrum at the moment, as many accounting firm owners are, big and small. Have you learnt anything along the way of what makes an accounting firm more attractive to talent than others?
I don't know if I'm right or not, but I think it's freedom. The last firm that I worked with had a great staff complement, a lot of CPAs, and the senior partner there, his view was freedom. You just come and go as you want. You have your assigned duties, and you do them. So it's almost working for yourself, but with the comfort of being in a family, in a network, in a group. So that's what the culture is that we're trying to develop. I've got young people coming through. We're trying to train them. I've got some senior experienced tax preparers, and we're trying to create an environment where you can come and go as you want. I'm not clock watching. I'm not going to check what time you got in or go or leave. But I'm going to give you a job to complete by a certain time, and all I expect is that you do that. Easier said than done.
There's a lot of trust involved in that, isn't there?
Yes.
There needs to be some accountability, some monitoring. How do you find it as well in the hybrid world that we live in, where not everyone's in the office, a lot of people are working from home? It's hard to drive culture and get alongside your younger people to train them up if they're not actually physically in a room with you looking over your shoulder.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can do it, to be honest. We're fully set up. I'm fairly IT or tech focused. As I was showing you earlier, I've got all my ERP on my
Very
phone.
mobile.
Yeah, I can answer emails here. I can start orders. I can check on status of orders. I can check clients' tax returns right on my phone. So anyone can do that. And my firm is fully set up so that if you want to work from home, you just log in through a secure VPN and off you go. I mean, I've got one guy still wears a tie to work every day. He's
Old school.
Yeah, but he's younger. He's doing his masters now. Great guy, but he wants to be in the office. I've said to him a number of times, "You can work from home." No, I want to be in the office. Another young lady we've just taken on. She comes in. She wants to be there where she's got a question. She walks down the hall and says,
Yes.
"Hey, how do I handle this?" And that then leads to the culture and the professionalism. We're in a profession. There's a reason it's called a profession. Is that we expect you to be professional.
That's the way it was always done, Craig, wasn't it? You learned 78% of what you needed to do for the job on the job.
Yeah.
Walking down the corridor, chatting to people over the water cooler, how do you do this? Looking over people's shoulders, peer over the cubicle wall, asking questions all the time, which you can't do when you're sat at your kitchen table working from home or your home office. You can't do it as easily.
Yeah, sure, you can. I mean, I have conversations when I'm working from home where a staff member will have an issue with something, send them a chat message with a video, Google Meet. They'll join up and instantaneous, we're right there, and share screens and we're going. So you can do that. but I think it's still stilted. It's still not a one-on-one. There's stuff that goes on off screen that you can't see and you can't tell.
And talking about peering over the garden wall, you're a member of Russell Bedford International. Stephen Hamlet is a friend of the show. He's been interviewed a few times with us. How important is it for you to be part of something bigger than yourself so that you've got people you can turn to as a firm owner?
Well, Russell Bedford has a couple of benefits to us. One is certainly that you've got this collegiate group out there that you can, I mean, even if you don't ask them for advice, just referring work and getting feedback and, from Stephen and Deanna and folk around the country. It's just great to know they're there. And we did have a situation with Texas. A client of ours had an operation in Texas and we needed help. And he was able to help us out. We had a foreign tax situation. Happens that same office specializes in foreign tax. So we could reach out to him for that. Sometimes, we get inquiries about larger work we can handle. Atlanta's 4 hours drive from us, and there's a big office there. I can just call Stephen and they can do the work. So that's great. The other thing for me is being from outside the US, I realize that there's a lot of opportunity overseas. A lot of CPAs, US CPAs look at Russell Bedford and say, what am I going to get out of it? And my attitude is, how am I going to use Russell Bedford to help my clients grow? I mean, I've got a client in Florida who just loves the idea that I can refer him to someone in Calgary, Canada, where we have a representative there, a network member there. And I can say, look, you need advice on payroll in Canada, you want to employ a guy there, talk to so-and-so, and he'll tell you how the Canadian law works and everything. It's sorted. I know I've given good advice. He's going to stay with me as a client. My attitude is, you're not going to get anything out of Russell Bedford unless you work it and use it. We're a very cosmopolitan city here in Charlotte.
The pandemic has accelerated. We are an international planet. People are working across countries, cultures and borders. Business is no longer confined to the community or the high street or the corridors that you once moved in. So everyone's having global conversations. And if you can't plug into a network of trusted providers and advisors, then you're letting your clients down. Now, you've been a US citizen for almost 15 years now, but you came from
citizen since 2013, so what's that, 7 years?
Yeah, and then your green card and everything else we were talking about. Can you make any comparisons between accountants, CPAs, chartered accountants, the different designations and the roles there in different countries?
It's interesting. I was a South African chartered accountant.
Yes.
Chartered accountant is very much financial accounting. So if you're a public company, you need to get your annual report out. You want a chartered accountant.
Yes.
Not to say CPAs can't do that. They're perfectly capable, but the CPA is a much broader qualification. So there's a strong emphasis on management accounting, budgeting, management reporting, and obviously the tax focus. Not to say that overseas chartered accountants do tax as well, but it tends to be more of a financial accounting focus in my experience for chartered accountants than for CPAs.
We've seen an increased influence of the vendors in the accounting space. We often ask our guests, who do you feel has the ear of the accountant? The vendors are pushing their agenda. They've got software and tech to sell. They're also trying to shape the accounting profession with automation and the way things are done. Do you talk much to vendors? Do you get a vibe and a feel and a steer from them about where the profession is going?
I get lots of spam calls from vendors. Oh my goodness. Some of them are really tenacious. Look, I don't know about pressure from vendors. I mean, I think there certainly is a huge tech focus.
Yes.
I mean,
the game has changed, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I asked a question the other day at Russell Bedford at our North America catch-up meeting. What do we use for electronically communicating with clients?
Yes.
Because I bought into a practice that's 30 years old. They were still mailing out tax returns, an inch thick to all their clients. And we still do. We have a lot of older clients who are just not tech savvy or not interested in getting into it. So we mail them out or we haven't picked up or whatever. So we still use a lot of paper, but more and more our clients are driving us to say, I want an organizer, a tax organizer that's electronic. So I can populate it on screen and send it to you. And I want to send it securely. So when I've completed the tax return, I don't want to have to print this thing. There might be a change. I mean, there's a 50-page document. I do it all, and then you tell me, but you haven't got such and such, one number. I had to reprint the whole thing. It's time consuming, it's wasteful. So if I can do that electronically, securely,
But that's where the tech and the vendors are coming into their own, because they're giving us the capacity to do that.
Absolutely, and it's there. It's there now. You can do, the software I have allows me to create a portal for my client, and in that portal they can upload documents, they can check the status of work that's ongoing, they can see if there's additional documents required, and they can upload them securely from their own computer, on their phone even. They can pay their bills, very important, and they can download their final copies. The only thing I lack at this stage, and then my next step in the IT side, is to give them the facility to sign, e-sign. But everything else is there. There's products that the other Russell-Bed firms use that offer that as well, but very expensive.
Sure.
Not cheap at all.
And you're buying firms, but you're also going to be in the selling market yourself at some point down the line.
Yeah.
So you'll be looking for a buyer yourself. Clearly you're digitizing your firm and moving it forward, and maybe even moving those clients on that are still back in the paper age and signing checks and on Excel spreadsheets and shoeboxes and everything else. What are you doing to make your firm a more attractive proposition to potential buyers?
My strategy is sound. I have a plan, which is very much what you say. It's a digitized firm. I don't want to be a virtual practice. A lot of virtual CPA practices for sale.
Okay.
I'm not sure I go with that. I still think there's a role for the relationship. So I still think you get a lot of, in the US, you've got people like H&R Block and Jackson Hewitt and these tax preparing firms. There's zero loyalty there. You go in, get your tax return done, and you walk out. And I mean, I used to work for one of those, so I know what it's like. And it's very efficient and effective, and they make a ton of money. But they employ people and paying them minimum wage. And they really don't take much time to go through your stuff. So I think there is a role for a CPA who's got a personality, they're able to relate to their clients, and their clients are able to relate to them.
And good retention of those clients.
And then you can retain them, and you can give them value-added advice. You can earn a slightly higher fee as a result of that. You can give them peace of mind. But at the same time, by using tech, you can move them forward into a more cost-effective situation if you're clever with your tech. So, and kind of get the best of both worlds. You're not just a virtual sign on the door that fills in the return and sends it off.
We'll never move away from wanting to shake somebody's hand, seeing the whites of their eyes, being in the same room as them, that intimacy.
There's obviously a demand for that. Get one and done. I mean, clearly a lot of people are just getting their returns done and sending them in.
Well, we've heard stories, Craig, about business owners employing not accountants and CPAs, but software accredited people that have no accounting qualification, but they know the software, the Xero, the Sage, the Intuit, the QuickBooks, whatever it is. Yeah. They know the practice management software, so they are just employing them to do the compliance work and the tax work, and almost cutting out the accounting.
QuickBooks is big at that. A lot of the tax prep software does do its own work.
Yeah.
And we rely on it. I mean, I rely on it. I mean, I won't lie that we do rely on our software catching a lot of the little tricks. There's a lot of formulas in there that calculate stuff for you. But at the end of the day, there's no substitute for understanding what a 1040 tax return looks like, what should be there and what shouldn't be there, particularly with businesses.
Yeah.
You've got a balance sheet in your tax return. That balance sheet should tell you something. If you're an experienced accountant, if you're a data entry person, it's going to be meaningless to you.
This is great stuff, Craig. A couple more questions, and it's wonderful to hear it in an authentic way from somebody that's doing it on the trenches in a small firm, trying to make it work, serve the business community. If you were to get your crystal ball out, difficult to predict what's coming up, and best practice last week is not best practice this week as things are changing so fast, but as far as you can see, what is coming up for accountants like yourself over the next few years?
More of the tech, more of the same, I think. I mean, the government is its own beast, We've now got, this morning was announced that they're going to grant student loan waivers. And some people get $20,000 off their student loans, others get $10,000 off. And it's all based on an income level of $150,000. So the minute I hear that, I think, okay, so how is the government going to monitor this? Probably through the tax return, which means suddenly we're back in the picture. CPAs are going to have to be involved somehow in confirming or auditing for the government that the person who got that credit was earning less than 150,000. That's what we've had the last couple of years with all these grants and stimulus checks.
And we have things in the UK like making tax digital,
Yeah.
which is going to be everywhere before too long, isn't it?
Well, I've often thought that one of the biggest risks to the profession is government takes over taxpayer. Because in the US now, your income is pretty much reported. You know, your annual earnings, wages are reported with the withholding taxes. Your investment income is reported with the costs. And then your major deductions, like we get a deduction for mortgage interest. So, yeah, that's reported. So the IRS knows all this stuff. It's really not difficult for them to produce, and they do, produce a tax return for you. So what role do we have? If the IRS starts turning out tax returns and sends you a letter in the middle of February and says, here's your tax return for 2021. Please sign if you agree, or file your own return. What's stopping government doing that?
Well,
I still think there's a huge credibility gap. Because if I'm a taxpayer and I get a letter from government telling me how much I owe them, I'm going to go and find a CPA.
yes, you should do. If you've got any sense.
Yeah, check this for me. I'm not sure I'm not going to believe these guys.
And there isn't much evidence that the government can handle the workload currently, let alone having to manage all of those tax returns.
Well, you see, with the digitization, a lot of it's just generated out of the computers. But then, anything that comes out of a computer is going to have bugs in it. There's so many different inputs and so many variations of what can happen.
Well, watch out for that with the government. Final question, Craig. What advice would you give to accountants out there, particularly accounting firm owners like yourself that want to stay competitive, want to stay relevant, want to stay ahead of things, want to keep on giving great client experience and build something significant?
You've got to price yourself correctly, and you've got to keep in touch with your clients. You've got to keep touching them some way. You make sure that they know you're there and that you're doing the best thing you can for them. The workload you have to deal with as a CPA can be daunting. 100 emails a day with little questions about this and that and the next thing. You've got to find a way to handle that.
And tax season, busy season's not getting any shorter, is it?
No, it doesn't. And it gets more complex. With all these new laws that they put in every year.
Are you a fan of upskilling, re-education, learning new knowledge, learning new skills?
You have to all the time. You've got to keep learning, and you've got to teach other people. So we've got junior staff coming in. We've got to teach them, and you've got to teach yourself. You've got to learn yourself all the time. Keep ahead of the curve.
Well, Crickfield, that's been inspiring. Thanks so much for your candor and your insights today.
Oh, you're welcome. Pleasure to meet.